Hi, and welcome to the Handbag Designer 101 podcast with your host, Emily Blumenthal, handbag designer expert and handbag fairy godmother, where we cover everything about handbags from making, marketing, designing, and talking to handbag designers and industry experts about what it takes to make a successful handbag. Welcome, my dear sweet Marta Torres from Martanya Handbags to Handbag Designer 101, the podcast. Welcome, welcome. Bienvenidos.
Thank you so much, Emily. So nice to see you again.
I know. I mean, I take such pride in having these interviews with handbag designers from the awards, Handbag Design Award winners. You know, I have this soft spot. Not even soft spot. It's like...
Yeah, but it's like, it's special.
Yeah. Like the designers who've come through that, I feel like this like extra protection of making sure that if there's anything we can do to amplify your journey, I feel like it's, you know, we're only as good and as strong as the community that we support. You know what I mean? And you're definitely a key part of that. So you are, I'd love saying originally from El Salvador because you're not there now, but historically, before March last year, you were born, bred, the whole thing El Salvadorian. El Salvadoriana.
Yeah, I am. I'm completely born and raised in El Salvador, San Salvador, El Salvador, in Central America.
Now, well, for those people who don't know geography, that is Central America, not South, not North, Central. So how your bags have always had this really unique perspective, something fun, something whimsical. We can see it right behind you, which I absolutely adore. How did you get started in doing this? And like the journey to me, because the construction is so clean on your bags that it's so intriguing to me. Like, what's the origin story?
Yeah, well, I started my last year of college of my bachelor's that I was doing my bachelor's in interior architecture. And my mom actually had a bag, no, not a bag brand, but like a clothing brand and fashion brand in the 80s. And yes, I think you don't know that part, but yeah. And
what was it called?
But it was Martanya, and that's where the name comes from. And it's also like a family name. And she had this brand, but it ended like before I was born. Like, so I was like not a part of it at all. And my brother, that's older than me, did like live through certain elements of it. But
what was it? Was it apparel?
Yeah, it was mostly clothes, apparel, and a few accessories like shoes and bags.
Was it a boutique or a brand?
It was more like a boutique. And in those times, of course, like there wasn't like any social media or anything. So it was like more word to mouth. And she had her boutique in San Salvador, and the accessories were more like a thing to like to have like the whole.
Right. To finish the look.
Yeah, to finish the look. And of course, like I see the pictures now, and like fashion in the 80s was so fun and so quirky. And that's also like
so unflattering.
But yeah, but at the same time, like so like whimsical and funny.
True.
And the thing is that one of the story is like very non-linear. Like it was just like someone that had worked with my mom for like making bags, and at that time it was just one person. He called her once and he said like he had just lost his job, and that if she was still working in the industry or if she had like any prospects over this. And my mom was already like doing like other things, but I've always liked to design my own clothes, like I dress.
You were one of those.
Yeah, and
so did you know how to sew?
I know very basic sewing skills to like understand how it works. But actually, like, my finishes aren't that good. So I'd rather, like, but it's good to know how it works because, like, you're able to design a lot better.
But when you were making your own clothes, were you sewing them?
No. I had someone back home that...
So you would find clothes, piece them together, and then go and say, can you do this and do that?
Yes, exactly. Like, and
so you were a visionary.
Give them drawings and like the whole process. And it was just like a thing for me. but people are always like, start your own brand, like the things you're doing are so interesting. But the thing was that there's a difference in between finding the way someone dresses interesting and wanting to actually wear it. Like that's like, yeah, there's a big difference. And El Salvador is still like a very conservative country, so there's not like a big, like broad, like target for that. But like,
so you stand out a little bit there.
Yeah, I do.
So just for people who are listening, our sweet Marta, her hair is bleach blonde. We've got a nose ring. We have some tattoos. We have the cutest little yellow top and the coolest, sweetest little strawberry bag in the back. And P.S., how much is that bag?
This one is 98, I think. Yeah.
And it's leather, right?
It's leather. It's leather. It's full leather. Or they also call it like vegan leather. But yeah, so like my mom was like, what if we like start making bags like just for fun and maybe like start like a very small business and see what happens. And I had
what did you think? Were you like, okay, was that a random thing for her to ask you?
It was sort of random. I was like, okay, like you've never designed a bag before. But at the same time, like I studied interior architecture, so I'm used to like designing furniture. I'm used to like designing different things. And it was like, okay, like I'll try it out. Like it's a different medium. But at first we started with like very conventional bags, like because like that's how you learn to start doing anything. I think like when you when you start like illustration, you always go into like things like that are more what you're used to seeing and like trying to understand the medium and things like that. And then like it surprisingly started growing because I didn't know there was a huge market for it in El Salvador, but people did respond well to it. And that's how it started growing to the point where but that's the beginning of it.
But so let me ask you. So this guy who worked for your mom indirectly reaches out to her and says, okay, let's try and start something. And how did the two of you, now running this small empire to be, say, okay, we'll start with, because I'm sure your mom took the lead at the beginning before you started driving. Was she like, okay, we're going to do traditional bags? And you were like, okay. And where did you start selling them? Like she didn't have a store at that point. So what did you do? Because this whole grassroots thing, because El Salvador isn't so big, but it's big enough that you still have to go through the same traditional steps to launch a brand, get people noticing, get people to come back, make sure that it fits the market, knowing your market. So how did you guys handle that?
Yeah, exactly. Like that was the first part because like, well, of course, like there's a production side of it, like starting to prototype and things like that and starting to like find their own voice, like within.
Were you doing the sketching for the protos?
Yeah, and also like making like cardboard and that we still do. We still like do like a very analog process to our bags, like because we like to have it like real size and we have it like in paper and cardboard. And
did your mom teach you how to do that, or did this guy, or you just knew to do it?
It was sort of a combination. Like she taught me like a little bit of how she worked, but I also like put my knowledge of interior architecture. Like it was even funny. Like I like things that were more graphic, I sketched them in AutoCAD, which I think like obviously it's not something that you would normally do.
No, that's amazing. But you know what you know.
Yeah, you know what you know, and you apply it. So the bags that are more graphic, I actually like still like put the different elements on AutoCAD because it's what I know. And I also like use Illustrator a lot, but like, so that's how like also like my two worlds like came together. But yeah, like she taught me some of that, and also like he taught me a lot of production. His name was Reynaldo. He passed away like 2 years ago. Yeah, but but he was like a huge thing to our brand and for me to learn this.
Well, you probably gave him, even during the pandemic, you probably gave him a new lease on life to have a purpose.
And it also was like very exciting because he was also an artist. Like this is like where we were in El Salvador, and El Salvador lost a lot of its like building or like craftsmanship. because like when like fast fashion came in and like clothes from other countries came in and bags from other countries came in, and when we got all this like these huge brands like Zara or Bershka and all these things, like a lot of craftsmanship was lost, and people were, and even now like people are learning less of that craftsmanship, and this guy like was an artist, like, and it was really fun to like show him like this thing, and at first he was like oh no, like this is too weird,
too complicated.
Yeah, but then he got like really into it, and we had like really cool conversations about like how can we make this work, and that is also like very nourishing. Like I learned a lot from him in the way that a bag is constructed and produced and works, and also understanding the medium helped me explore more in my designs, because once you know how something works, then we got away from like the traditional handbag, because I was able to understand more that a bag can be anything you want it to be, as long as it like ergonomically fits your things in it. It can actually be anything, and that's really fun.
How did you guys go from like, now you've made these bags with Ronaldo, with your mom, like considering you are, you know, much more, I don't want to say forward thinking, but much more like of the time versus the two of them, I'm sure, did your sales start coming from a website? Did you did you go to Etsy immediately? Because to go from traditional bags to the bags you have now is pretty nice. I mean, not that your bags aren't traditional in terms of functionality, but in terms of design. How did you start getting sales and customers, and then had this chat with your mom, like, hey, let's evolve this? Or was it like organic, like you had traditional and then you made one party piece, and then it kind of, you realized the sales were tipping? How did that work?
Yeah, that was also a process, because like I'm a huge researcher. Like everything I do, like I have to research like what's going on and it's also like some things that I had to learn by myself. Like, but I like research what was happening in El Salvador, what was happening in the world towards like bags in general. And also like, yeah, I had a conversation with my mom, because she was like, oh, how are we going to sell this? Like, we don't have a store. And also I know that things have changed a lot since she had
80s.
In the 80s, like things move in a very different pace, in a very different way. So social media was a huge thing for us. Right. But I have this thing where like everything I do or everything I put my name into, like I want it to be like very good. I feel like I've let go of that within the years. Like I've been like that nothing has to be perfect. But it definitely like took me a while.
If you wait for it to be perfect, then you never get it out.
Then you're never gonna do it.
You become your own worst enemy.
That's a lesson. That's a lesson I learned throughout life. Like it's.
But the flip side of it, the fact that you said that you did so much research and you had the technical know-how, it's one of those things that I teach and I speak about constantly, that people who want to get into this, even those who've been doing it, you need to continue to do this research, see how your market's changing and how your market's evolving, and to understand the trends. So like, I'm sure this was probably even a little daunting to your mom for you to come back saying, hey, it's totally not what it used to be.
Yeah. And also it was important for me also like as an artist, because like I do the same thing that I would do with furniture and things like that, and say like, of course, in art, like everything, like every idea has already existed in some way, but I never want to accidentally be copying someone else. Like that for me would be the worst thing ever. So it was always
exactly
like, so you need to know, and that sometimes comes from like ignorance, because you haven't researched enough, and sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't know. But with all the resources we have now, I feel like it's not an excuse. Like we can like, we need to know what's happening out there. And like, even though I know there are other strawberry bags, they always have to be like in my style. Like, what is my vision? And it's also important to me because like, first of all, ethically, and also because like, I don't want to put something out there that's already out there. Like, I want to put my own twist into it. But going back into like the actual brand and things, I told her like, okay, we're going to sell online. I saw like how other people were selling online. In El Salvador, it happens a lot that it still is this way. Like it's still like through Instagram and like through immediate Instagram. Like there's not like a selling platform. It's more like DMing like the place.
I want this. How do I buy?
Yeah, and how do I buy it? Where do I go? And things like that. And like I saw this, and I had already like I always like tried to buy from small businesses, so I always like knew like this like how this was working in El Salvador. So I was like, okay. Oh, and it's funny because I started in 2016. So in that moment, it was still actually Facebook that was the big thing there, or at least in El Salvador, it was still Facebook. And like I made the Facebook page with the brands, and I took forever to take like the first pictures because I also like do art direction and so I took forever to like edit the first pictures and things like that, and like figure out like what style I wanted.
Right.
That and things that, of course, my mom knew more of the production side, but this side was like
the visual,
like,
the branding.
me researching, and me like trying to figure out like, no, this brand has to have like a specific voice, and what are we trying to say? But in that moment, it was still gonna be like a very like small thing. We were like, oh, we're gonna sell like a couple of bags, and it's gonna be right. But still, like for me, it was important. Like if I'm gonna say like I have this little bags that I'm selling, it has to be like a specific way. But I even remember like launching my page in Facebook, and I'm like, nobody's gonna like my page. Nobody's gonna
right. Yeah, it's
so
scary.
Nobody's gonna like follow up on this. Nobody's gonna ask about anything.
Right.
That like I don't know how to move this thing.
Right. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary to put yourself out there. I mean, especially now. People are so quick to put a brand, you are your own best publicist at the end of the day. So any picture you put out there is representation of who you are. Yeah. So, my students, I always say, like, you have to recognize whatever picture you put out there, that's you as a brand. So you have to realize, like, if you are a brand, like, having the vision, having your brand identity, having your product identity, having your brand strategy and your product strategy mapped out. So I understand your trepidation of going live, but then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you have to flip the switch at some point.
Yeah. You have to,
like, okay, let's just go. And if we can always make changes, but you need to make some money.
Exactly, because like I also like in my research, like I also saw like a lot of brands that just like put their things out there like in any way,
right?
And of course you do have to make some money, but it's like if it's about that balance, like
right.
to like also like not be an extra perfectionist, but also like put in enough
making
work
sure everything aligns.
Yeah, but put enough energy in that it has some meaning to it. It's not just a random thing that you're
right. So how did you go from the traditional bags to the bags that I love so much? Sorry, I have like extra love for your brand just because it isn't. Well, it's just so joyful, and I look, like you said, there are plenty of whimsical bags out there. You're absolutely not the only one doing this, but it's just done in such a way that it's like fashion is supposed to make you happy, right?
Yeah,
like you need to have the fashion, you need to have the function. It needs to be value added to whatever you have on. And the beautiful thing about handbags is that they're agnostic in the category, size, it's non-judgmental in size and so forth. Of course, you have to be thoughtful if it's going over your arm in terms of coats and all that, but it has to be something that will make you happy. So how were you able to infuse your vision? And was your mom like, or listen, working with your mom could be the best thing, but at the end of the day,
no.
If you ever wanted to start a handbag line and didn't know where to start, this is for you.
Living proof that independent designers can make it big.
I believe Blumenthal is one prime example.
If you had dreams of becoming a handbag designer and didn't know where to start, this is for you. If you have a handbag brand and are in need of strategy and direction, this is for you. I'm Emily Blumenthal, handbag fairy godmother and handbag designer expert, and this is Handbag Designer 101, the masterclass. Over the next 10 classes, I will break down everything you need to know how to make, market, and manufacture a handbag. Broken down for you that you'll not only skip steps in that handbag building process, but also save money in that learning curve. For the past 20 years, I've been teaching at the top fashion universities in New York City, created the Handbag Awards, and also the Handbag Designer 101 podcast. I'm going to show you like I have countless brands from sketch to sample to shelf, whether you're just starting out and don't know where to begin, or even if you have a handbag line and just need some strategic direction, the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass is just for you. So let's get started, and you will be the creator of the next it bag. Join me, Emily Blumenthal, with the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass.
I completely understand. And yeah, like, but first, like, coming back to what you said, like, I completely think that too. Like, I remember, because I always liked fashion, but I remember like reading this article about like in dark times, sometimes like fashion is very like joyful or pastel colors and things like that. And it's a sort of like a form of escapism, but not in a wrong way. Like, it's a way like, we have a right to also have like things that make us happy, things that makes us smile. And it's a thing that I enjoy a lot about our brand, that like when people see it, they always like smile and they're always like happy about it. And I think that things can be deep even if they're like joyful and like there's another element to it and there's beauty to it. But yeah, but about the traditional bags versus like the current bags, like first then they started becoming like our first prototypes were like extremely traditional, like the basic handbags. But then
were they leather or were not leather?
They were not leather.
They were leather.
Like at first, my mom did want to start with leather, but first of all, like it was much more expensive,
obviously.
And then we realized that you also have to work with what you have. And like, we obviously like had to go like to different vendors, like to in parts of El Salvador. And we realized that there were more options in colors and things like that in leatherette. And then I just stuck with it because like it worked
I'm
out.
so fascinated that you had vendors there selling it, because I would just assume Central America, especially in El Salvador, that, you know, it's a beef culture, that you wouldn't be able to buy skins and so forth and be able, you know, because unlike today in, you know, where fast fashion is, where there's so much wastage, El Salvador, at least as far as I know, is still a country and a culture that would never allow there to be wastage. Like anything that's used in an animal would be used 100%. So you weren't able to find someone that had that extra material left over, or it was like you couldn't because they didn't have the capability to dye it in a way that you were looking for?
Yeah, that was more like there were options for leather, but the thing is that I think that there isn't like a big like sellers just sell according to what the market is asking for. And since in El Salvador people don't use like, or the people be buying these things don't usually like wear a lot of color, then like what you would find in leather was just like brown, black, and tones around that. And sometimes like a little orange, but like a very dark orange and things like that. And so that's why we started exploring with leatherette. And at first it was more like, oh, we'll do this for a while and we'll see like how it goes. But then we like really liked the process.
The result.
The result. And like, and me personally, like, I think I prefer like leatherette in general, just like a personal, like.
Can I ask you something? The leatherette that you're speaking about, I'm assuming the people who were selling it, they weren't selling it for handbags. Were they selling it for furniture?
Exactly.
Is that how you knew? Because that's a twist. That makes people say, oh, I need to find a supplier, handbags. You would never, unless you knew to think of different categories.
Actually, like when we go to these places, like they're not for bags, that like they're for furniture mainly, and sometimes for shoes, but more sandals. Like in El Salvador, people wear a lot of sandals.
Right.
Even like in the city, like they wear a lot of sandals, but like they try to make it like a little less like boring, I guess. Like,
right.
But They were like a lot of places are actually for furniture. So
because people in a traditional culture, people wouldn't be risk averse to wear a bright colored sandal. They'd be risk averse to change their whole outfit, but not their sandals.
Exactly. And that's also like a point that you mentioned that is that's why I feel like I stuck with this. Like I've been sticking with this for so long. Like the fact that handbags, like I've always liked fashion and exploring with my style, but handbags gives like such a broad range, and like size doesn't matter. I mean, like size does matter, but I mean like it's it's more about proportions and things like that. But it's like it doesn't judge you for whatever size you are. You won't have like, besides like straps and things like that. And we try to make them adjustable. And even that, like, of course, is a learning curve.
Yeah.
And I also feel like there's more options in people exploring in handbags than they are the rest of their outfit. Like I see like some of my clients like wearing like all black and suddenly like a very bright like strawberry bag, because like I think it gives like a little bit less pressure to you.
Yeah.
Like it's an accessory, like it's something that it's not like
you don't need to commit to changing your entire look if you're wearing a strawberry bag.
Exactly. You can like just be wearing like something special and not feeling like you're committing to like completely like changing your look. So I find that very special about like bags in particular. And we started like making traditional bags when we were prototyping, but then they were less traditional, but more like less traditional in the Salvadorian way. But still, they weren't like in different shapes or things like that. And the first like weird bag, let's call it, that was the seashell bag. And I actually made that, the first one, I made it for myself for a wedding that I had. And it was my cousin's wedding. And I had shoes that were like that material from a small business that was making shoes. And I had sent them the design and they had made them for me. And I was like, I need a handbag to go with it. And I thought of a seashell and I made this. And I told my mom, like, I feel like I want to start like making more things like that. And this was like a couple of weeks after we had launched the brand, like a brand that, like, the bags were still different, but from what we usually saw, that we had back like in bright pink, transparent color. We had it, like, they were still different, but they weren't like in these conventional forms and
novelty. They weren't hitting novelty.
Like they weren't in the novelty side of it. And that was the first one. And my mom was at first like, do you think people are going to like this? And I was like, let's just like put it out there and see like how people react. Mm-hmm. And then we started from that one, because it was a seashell on a circle, and to make it like to have more space in it. Right. And then like I told my mom, like, I want to make a line out of this, like different circles with like different elements on it.
Right.
And she was like very skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll bag.
Because I then made a pineapple bag. That was one of those. And she was like, I don't know where we're going with this. Like, I don't know. But it was so funny because like months later, like she was like very excited, and like, for example, like the elephant bag, like it was her design. Like we always work on this together. Like always, like one of us has the first idea. I feel like the first part of the process is always like very intimate, but then we always go to the other one and say like, I want to do this. What do you think about these measurements? Or how do you think this can open? Or how do you think this can work? But the elephant was her idea. And also like the first like milk carton bag, the first version was her idea. And it was really fun to like also like see her like exploring like in other elements of it. And then she realized that yeah, like she also loved it. It was more like she had this like idea of what it's should be or what they should look like, or that it lost value because of it like being too like whimsical or things like that.
How, when you were building your audience, I talk a lot about this 80-20, that 80% of your customers come from 20% of your business. So what are you doing to ensure that your customer comes back to continue to buy more bags, especially with a novelty, with a brand that skews more novelty, at least not in terms of functionality, but in terms of look. And also, I want to speak to your price points. Your bags are not mass produced, but yet you have a price point that is super competitive and probably on the more affordable side, that I think it gives you such a competitive edge against anybody else, at least within that space. If anything, or perhaps it's a detriment because, you don't have that volume to keep you going.
Yeah, about the volume, like, yes, at one point it did happen to us that we were like receiving like a lot more orders than we were expecting. And the thing is that we do have more people working with us now, but like even the process, like even if they're already like handbag makers, we don't make bags in a traditional way. And not just because of the form, but just because like bags are usually made, like, a lot about bags, but like to explain this to everyone, like that bags are usually made, or at least in El Salvador, they're made like they're sewn and then they're flipped. And our bags are more boxy and they're actually like built up to something. So even if like someone has
turned inside out, so your bags are not made inside out.
No, literally like boxes that are like put together and sewn together, and yeah, we had to like buy like special machines for this and things like that. That was also like a learning curve. So like even if we find people that make bags, that is already difficult. Like in a country that has lost a lot of its craftsmanship, like there's always like this part of like training them and to the way that we work and like how things are built up. And actually the way that it's been happening is like the person before like trains the like new person. But I find that also like very beautiful because I feel like it's a lost art because like actually like the way we build bags was more a way that they were built in the 80s. And it also like gives us more like leeway into into making like different forms and things like that. But yeah, it's hard to sometimes to like keep up with production. And sometimes that's why we have like a big, like we have to give like a little bit of a weight towards people because like they're handmade and also like our production isn't very big. And we also
How many people do you have making the bags?
3. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, you're also responsible at this point for you're keeping people employed. That's really important.
And that during the pandemic was like a hard issue because like we were in like complete lockdown, but like we were responsible for these people and we of course like kept paying them and all of this, but we were like, oh my God, like how are we gonna like make this work? Like it was very scary at one point because like we like employ people and we're in charge of them. So even though we're a small team, like still like people were in charge though. And also like me being younger, like it was never like used to like, I'm always like a leader in like every element of my life.
Right.
But here, like it was also like, I'm getting a little distracted, but yeah, like it was almost also like about like usually people that make these things are usually men. And I was like, I'm like this woman that I also look younger than I am. And I dress like in a funny way. So it was like, how do I command respect and things like that? But I was able to do it. And I was like, because I'm not going to change who I am or how I dress and everything like that.
But I also think, you are a very thoughtful speaker and fluff is not coming out of your mouth. And I think you carry yourself in a way, regardless of how you present yourself, because I think, especially in this day and age, honestly, you could look upside down, but it's what you say and how you say it and what you're bringing to the table. Nowadays is much more important. I mean, it's not like, look, maybe if you were coming to me and offering to do my taxes, I might think twice. But if you're a designer,
no, and I completely understand what you're saying. But yeah, in El Salvador, that is such a like conservative and sometimes like very patriarchal society that it was like are people going to respect me and like things like that. But then like I realized that like the way I spoke and the fact that they realized that I knew what I was doing and things like that gave them, like they understood. Like
coming from working with your mom, did that matter? Did that give you more value, or because she was a woman that it didn't matter?
It actually helped because like she had more experience, but actually like it was funny because like she had more experience in architecture. So like she's used to being like this very like because in construction you have to be like even more of course. Like to like show your like your power and things like that, and to command respect. And so like she's of course like a huge role model to me, and that also helped that they understood that we both knew what we were doing, and that I had knowledge of this, and I had like, and that I was learning, but at the same time like there was value also to my voice. And there was like, and even there was a point where I also like had a conversation with my mom about like our types of leadership and things like that. And also like that's also a thing you learn throughout the process, like different types of like leaders.
So, I mean, working with a partner, like anything, like you guys need to be symbiotic and in sync in terms of like the messaging, and make sure you don't counter each other, because like, exactly. Oh, she said this and she said that. Well, believing in how's this presenting? This is so fascinating. Where are you at right now? Like, where are Martanya Bags, and what do you want for the future? How do you see this growing?
Yeah, well, Martanya is still currently based in El Salvador, and we have our small team there. And my mom is taking care of my mom and business partner is still taking care of the production side of it. And I'm taking care of all the online part of it, all the shipping labels, all the contact with people, all the customer support. I'm still the person that does it. And we've gotten like a good balance out of it. And also like we're currently working on new designs. And also like that's, again, like we're starting like sketching and things like that, and talking like, but now it's so much easier with so much technology, like to like have like a meeting about this. And yeah, it's been very interesting.
Are you carried in stores, or do you want to keep it straight online? Like, what's the goal?
We've worked with stores before in El Salvador and also in New York, but currently we're not. Like a lot of things changed during the pandemic, and we realized that because in the pandemic, actually, like a lot of people were buying stuff. We just told them like we were going to send it to them after lockdown, obviously.
Right.
But because everything was closed.
Right.
But like people were buying a lot. I think it also gave like coming back to like this release and having like something to look forward to, something happy. It made them like feel like happy to have looking forward to this special thing that is gonna arrive. And it also felt like very special to have people that believed so much in you that were like, even gonna have my bag in like a few months. Like I still want to have it.
That's amazing. Like, I mean, but that comes from running a business in a way that you have a relationship with your customers and you humanize the whole process, and then they know that the bag is being made. It's not mass produced. It's done thoughtfully. You're kind. You keep them part of the process, and that's a very strategic balance to do with the customer, because some are like, okay, stop contacting me. I just want my damn bag, versus like, hey, wanted to let you know, here's what's going on. You can expect it, and you're going to love it even more.
And I think, I think that's what also makes it special, like the connection with the clients. And answering your previous question, I think that's also a part of it, because at one point I did things like, how many are going to be like repeating customers, since like they're novelty bags, and maybe like people are like, oh, I have one, so
right.
But no, like we have like a lot of like repeating customers, and people like even tell me like I have now a collection of Martanya bags. And other people are even like, because of course like bags have their lifespan, so like, and at this point we've been in business since 2016, so of course like people that bought like a long time ago, like started getting distressed and things like that. And I even had gotten clients that tell me like, I'm buying this bag again because mine is distressed, but I love it so much that I don't I don't want to stop using it. And that for me is so meaningful because like, I know it's so easy for you to say like, I'll just buy another thing because I want to spend my money on another thing.
Right.
But like the fact that they loved it so much that they want to continue using it and buying it again. And of course, with times, like even price points have changed because like everything like being realistic, like in El Salvador and everywhere, like prices are being raised for our transportation system, for materials, for everything, and that like trickles down to like us having to sometimes raise the prices and things like that. But it's nice that people like it so much that they're able to do that. But I think that's also like a very human aspect to having like a small business, that they know that I'm very involved. So they give me like these messages, or when they give you like these like special messages, like, yes, like I love it so much, you used it for this special occasion. And I think that like humanizes a lot more the house, and more special for both of the people involved, because for me it also like makes it more special and more fulfilling to have like that relationship. And of course, like I always try like the energy the client is giving me, like I'll try to relax. Like not being like too extra, of course, but I know it's like those messages because they like make you feel like, oh yeah, it's like I really appreciate what we're doing. It's because it's not like just a financial transaction. It's like it's something.
It's an authentic connection. Yeah. Marta, how can we follow you, learn more, and buy your amazing bags?
In Instagram, we're as Martania Bags. And you can also find us in Etsy and Martania Bags, and we ship worldwide. Right now, most of our clients are in the US. We also ship to Europe a lot, but we've sent to a little bit of everywhere. And we also still sell locally in El Salvador. And I'm currently based in Berlin, but I'm still very much a part of this. And I mentioned that I just did my first market in Berlin. It was very exciting to see people getting excited about the bags and seeing them for the first time, and having different clients and seeing like a more like, because like, like at a certain point that your products are doing well somewhere, but you don't know like how people are going to react elsewhere. So having that feedback was also like very cool. And times that I've done like fairs in New York, I also had that experience. And it's always like amazing to feel that love for what I do, because I do put a lot of passion into it.
Well, I can see it. I love your bags. I think what you're doing is so special, and I know the potential of growth, and I know you have the capacity to scale. So can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you, Marta, for being part of Handbag Designer 101, the podcast. And please definitely check out Martania Bags for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review, and follow us on every single platform at Handbag Designer. Thanks so much. See you next time.